Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on nonprofit fundraising in the age of COVID. I'm Tim Ryan, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'll be your host. Our presenter today is Stan Witkow. More on Stan in just a minute. First, some brief information on SCORE. There's over 320 offices and 11,000 volunteers nationwide. We're part of the SBA. SCORE Fairfield County has over 130 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. First, free one-on-one counseling. Second, educational workshops and webinars, over 150 per year. And three, extensive resources on our website, including a network of subject matter experts and templates to help you develop your business plan. SCORE puts on many webinars each month. Look for future events on our website webinar calendar at fairfieldcounty.score.org. Some useful information about today's event. If you have a question, please use the chat window at any time during the presentation. It is located in the lower part of your screen. Our webinar will end at 1 p.m. to respect your time. The session is being recorded and the link to the recording will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org within the next couple of days. Now our speaker. Stanley Witkow spent most of his professional career as the general counsel or senior legal officer of a succession of technology companies, including Ashton-Tate, CIC, WordStar, and GE Capital IT Solutions. Stan has long been involved with nonprofits, having helped organize them, sits on their boards, and helps them raise money. Most recently, he created Virtual Bingo, an online bingo game that raises money for local nonprofits. Welcome, Stan. It's all yours.
Thank you, Tim. Nice to be here. Nice to be doing this. Let us just hope that my internet connection does not go out, but if it does, hang tight because I usually am pretty easily able to reboot it. Before I start, let me just tell you a tiny bit about me. I am not a professional fundraiser, but what I don't know from profession, I think I know from my heart. I think my family has been involved in fundraising and nonprofit activities from well before I was born. Our family was the beneficiary of community support when I was younger. It's always held an important part of my life, and having been involved in so many different things, you really pick up a lot along the way. I don't think I'm going to tell you anything today that you don't already know, but I think that perhaps some of the things that we talk about today will just reignite things in your own mind to help you with your own organizational things. So we shall begin. I think the first thing that everyone is concerned about is what's really going on with charitable giving during the pandemic. And I guess I have some pretty good news, which is that, in fact, notwithstanding the fact that the economy is in a doldrums, charitable giving has really remained constant. And for giving at the lower levels, which are gifts under $250, there's actually been an increase in the number of gifts that nonprofits are reporting. Gifts over $1,000 are slower, but not dramatically slower. So I think that all in all, that's a good thing. I think everyone is really aware of the needs that have arisen during the pandemic, and people are rising to the occasion. I think for myself, I'm going to be interested in seeing what happens over the next few months, whether money was diverted during the election cycle that now will be available for nonprofits. So maybe, who knows, maybe there will be a spike in giving. That would be a really wonderful thing. So I think that I've sort of divided the presentation into two parts. And the first part is, as it says on the screen, what we're trying to do today. And I think that there are two key challenges that nonprofits are facing in the age of the pandemic. The first is keeping their organizations alive. And when I say that, I mean the things that so many nonprofits used to do face-to-face in terms of engaging their members, both their members, the participants in their organization, and the recipients of their largesse. And a lot of that has just plain stopped dead in its tracks because people aren't outdoors. They aren't doing the kinds of things that that we used to do. We aren't doing meetings. We aren't doing events. So how do you keep how do you keep your organization active and your members engaged? And the other thing is financial viability. If you're not doing those things, how do you raise the money to do the things that you need to do? So those, I think, and that's what this webinar is all about, is how to address engagement and viability. My proposition is that without engagement, viability is really challenged. So let's talk for a second or for a few minutes about engagement and how you keep people involved. The first thing that for me, I hate being nagged. I just hate getting countless emails. I hate getting lots of phone calls from organizations. Will I? You know, usually give. But in the age of the pandemic, I don't think organizations have a choice. I think that you cannot be afraid to make frequent and regular contact with both your members and your constituency, the people you're serving. But I think that so you need to resist the urge not to bother your constituents. But there's a big difference between always your communication being an ask and your communication being an information bit. So I think that when you are communicating with your constituents, what you want to do is you want to let them know what the organization is doing and how it is doing during the COVID-19 pandemic. You need to let your constituents know how they can be part of the activities that you're engaged in, a lot more than just asking money. Money is really the last part of the proposition. Communication is absolutely the key. I have a slide out of order, or a couple of slides out of order, I'm sorry. Oh, geez, I've got to go back. Something went wrong. I'm very sorry. Well, this is just not doing its thing. So I'm going to just go on without the slide, which is talking about engagement methodology. So I think you need to ask yourself, how are you communicating with your donor base or with your member base, or the people that you are serving? And you need to know who your organization is, who the people are, and what's the best way to to contact those people. You can use social media, you can use mail, you can use personal contact. It really depends on the organization. I am a really, really, really strong advocate of the telephone. One of the things that I urge people to do and organizations to do is to create committees to do telephone chains, I guess is the best way to describe it, where you divide up the people who need to be called to different people, and everyone has a quota of people to call to tell your story. So it isn't one person has a task of calling 150 people. Obviously that can't happen, but what it does two things. First of all, it engages the people who are making the calls. And second, it's an opportunity for the people that you're calling to have some actual personal involvement and engagement with the organization itself. There are things you can do that you can learn from these calls. One of the things that I have suggested and that has been really, really, really effective is using a program or an application that's available on the web called SurveyMonkey. I'm not sure if you're familiar with SurveyMonkey, but it's a wonderful product that allows you to do instant online surveys. You can design them to ask questions. There's a term called push polling. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it allows you to create questions where you get the answers that you want. It's kind of a sophisticated thing, but not hard to figure out. But one reason for using something like SurveyMonkey is that it causes the people you're contacting to actually do something. And once again, having them be active is a great way, to engage them. And second, you get information from them, which helps you decide how you're going to act going forward. So you can find out what kind of things your constituents want to do. You can find out the best way to contact your constituents, any variety of different things. You can test, market different approaches to your constituents. And like I said, the good news about it from my perspective is that it's something for your constituents to do, which gets them engaged, to help them think they're helping the organization, which in fact they are. And they are, because you now know what to do that's going to be most beneficial for them. Second thing is you should be getting out the word on what your organization is doing. Once again, it's not asking for money. It's letting people know what the organization is doing, the value that it's adding. So one of the things that, among the things that you can do is you can distribute newsletters. I don't know if the organization has a blog, but you can create a blog and ideally go after your members and get them to subscribe so that they actually want to read what's going on. You can distribute information about your organization to local press or neighborhood, town websites. Westport used to have Westport. Now it's, I think, now called Westport Press. But it's a community-run blog that posts information, different goings on around town. There are still some newspapers, and you can distribute the information to your newspaper. But it's all about what the organization is doing this week, so that people know that you're adding value, and ideally you're generating some excitement. You need to be thinking virtually. I think that we all have a degree of Zoom fatigue, but there are things that you can do to make being online more exciting, more engaging. You can create events, and we'll talk about some of those a little later on, but events that are related to the organization's mission. You can create dialogues, you can do presentations. I find that people who are active in organizations like to hear about what the organization is doing, like to understand what and why it's doing, and they like to participate in things like the strategy that the organization is following. So open meetings are a great thing. Town halls are where everyone can add their 2 cents. Doing brainstorming is a great thing to do to once again engage your constituency. So now this will work, I hope. So, but before as you're doing all these things, you need to know what your end game is, because you can't get somewhere unless you know where you want to go. So it's critical to know what your end game is. Which is, and so that is, what is it that you're actually trying to achieve? What is your goal? So is your goal to raise money? Is your goal to gain members? Is your goal to use your members to do something? It all depends. But you need to know that to focus your offerings around those goals. So for example, among the things that you might want to do is increase membership. So you need to develop your network. Use your members to help you get new members. Each member is responsible for trying to find 2 new members. Those 2 members, get 2 more members, and so forth and so on. But networking is a really great way to increase and energize an organization. Learn the basics about social networking, about Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or other forms of social networking that once again creates more visibility for you and helps you increase your network. Talk to the people in your organization to help them develop activities that are meaningful to them, and hold virtual events. And among the virtual events that I'm seeing people doing, and which just seem to be incredibly successful, are finding speakers related to your organization or what your organization is doing that are that can really educate the people in your organization. People love to join in and learn, and finding speakers or even officers or the doers in your organization. If your organization provides a service, having the people who provide the service be online to explain what they're doing and how they're doing it and answering questions about it. The people in the field, most of the people who are supporting an organization don't often come in contact with the actual doers. And when they hear what's going on, they really become far more engaged and more active in the organization. They can ask a lot of questions. And of course, at the end of these things, you can do the ask. And the ask can be for money, or it can be for more volunteers. And some organizations, it's the volunteers that are really what makes the organization go. I use as an example, builders, why am I drawing a blank? Habitat for Humanity. Habitat is interested in raising money, but they're also interested in getting a core of volunteers to do the work their organization does. So when we talk about what's your end game, in Habitat for Humanity, more often than not, their end game is finding people who will join them to actually do the work that they do. They get their money, more nationally through soliciting Home Depot or Lowe's or major corporations that really fund or sponsor their activities. But their challenge in many cases is simply finding workers to go out and build the houses and do that kind of work. So you need to know what it is you're trying to do. Are you trying to find people? Are you trying to find money? In any event, you need to do it in a way that generates activity, engagement and excitement for your event. So now, let's see if this works. Okay, success stories. So I'm going to tell you about 2 success stories. And I guess one of them is the reason I'm here today. When the pandemic started, like most people, we were sort of, without our bearings, without our friends, just sort of hanging out. And I got a phone call on a Saturday night from my son And he said he and his friends had just gotten off a Zoom conference. And this was when people were still pretty excited about Zoom. That I think is come and gone. But and he said, you guys should do a virtual cocktail party with your friends. We played party games. We had the best time and blah, 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 blah. So my wife and I listened to him and we thought, okay. And then later during the week, I said to my wife, we could do a bingo game. So we thought up a way to do bingo online, and I sent emails out to about a dozen of our friends, and I said, would you like to play bingo on Thursday night? And they said yes. And so we started what we call virtual bingo, and we had a couple of, and these are things that I would suggest you think about when you're doing these activities. One of which was we designed a game, something that had a very low cost of entry, because I didn't want to put anybody off by saying, it's $25 or something like that. So we sell bingo cards for $5 a piece. I wanted to make it easy on myself, so I didn't want to have to track down the money. So I said to people, send me your $5 by Venmo or PayPal, and I gave that information out. When I get your money, I'll send you a bingo card and I'll send you the login instructions for virtual bingo. So we did that. And the first week we had, I guess, about 15 people played, maybe a dozen people played. And some of them bought a card, some of them bought 2 cards, and it was great. I think we raised about $100, $120, and everyone, and we did bingo on Thursday night. And the thing that was the most amazing and the most gratifying was that when we were done, everyone said, thank you for doing this. And the winner of I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. The winner of virtual bingo doesn't win anything. What they win is the right to choose, in our case, a COVID-related nonprofit for the money to go to it. All the money goes to the nonprofit. So anyway, so we did this, and people were, had a good time. We started at 7:30. By 8 o'clock, we were done. And people thanked us for doing the game. And I thought, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Why are you thanking us? You guys are the ones who are putting up the money and everything. So anyway, we've been doing it. We have been doing it now for 9 months, which is a long time. Who would have thought? But this week, we are probably going to go over $10,000 in people just playing a little bingo game every week. And every week, people thank my wife and me for putting on this game. And it is, when I said it comes from the heart, it's about the best feeling there is when you do something like that. So I tell you this story because it just was easy. And you too can come up with something easy. I have actually trained other people on how to do virtual bingo. We ran a virtual bingo for a Rotary Club here. I just got a call from another organization that I think we're going to do it for in January. But it's an easy thing to do. I think that, you can come up with your own kinds of things like that once again, engage your members. It's not a lot of money, because that's really not for an organization. That may be not what you're really trying to do, but you're really trying to keep people involved and alive and understand what your organization is really about. So that's virtual bingo. If you're interested, send me an email, stan@witkow.com, and I'll send you an invitation to virtual bingo. We are going to keep playing at least until everyone is vaccinated. So it looks like another 6 months or so, but it's been great. So that's my personal success story, and I'm really, really happy about it. Second success story, I am a member of Westport Rotary, and in Westport, Connecticut. And Westport Rotary for the last 7 or 8 or 9 years has put on a Lobsterfest at the end of September. And we started from really nothing, and it has become one of Westport's major town events. And actually we have sold out our Lobsterfest every year for the last 2 or 3 years. This year, we realized we couldn't hold a Lobsterfest. And last year, we raised netted $100,000, which Westport Rotary gives to local, 3/4 that goes to local nonprofits in the general area, and 1/4 goes for international activities that we're involved in. So a lot of the local smaller nonprofits in our community really depend on our money. And, we were really concerned, and we were getting stories, calls from them saying, what do you think you're going to do? We're going to really be strapped if we don't have this money from you, blah, blah, blah. And we were really, really, really concerned. So we went through a variety of different, once again, brainstorming sessions ourselves to figure out what was the best thing. We talked about doing a drive-through Lobsterfest, and we realized we couldn't even get volunteers because no one wanted to be around other people. We couldn't cook the lobsters and so forth and so on. So we decided on an unlobsterfest. And some of you may have heard, maybe 5-10 years ago, there was a movement to do away with grand fundraisers, and they were calling them unballs. And rather than spending the huge amount of money on these fancy, parties at major hotels, for the $1,000 a plate kind of thing, people were just soliciting the money and not having the ball. And I think they sort of fell flat because I think they're all back now. But in any event, we decided we would try something similar to that. So we printed up our lobster banners that we put all over the town. We changed it to Unlobster. It was an Unlobsterfest. And we created a committee that went after our sponsors from previous years. And we solicited them and explained the story. And the response was amazing. And in fact, we raised more money this year than raised on a gross level, let alone a net level, since we didn't have to pay for lobsters, than we've ever done before. And it just showed, from our standpoint, how ready the community was to stand up and give. And we did, part of the reason that we decided to continue to do the Unlobsterfest with the banners, with the signs, with the publicity, was that we're coming back next year, and we didn't want anyone to forget about Lobsterfest. It's an important community event, and while we weren't going to hold it, we couldn't hold it, we didn't want people to think we weren't doing it or we had abandoned this major community event. So, it was once again just a remarkable success, showing how you can pivot in this situation. I have observed that any number of other nonprofits have switched their annual fundraising event into something that is less elaborate, often online. Sometimes they will have a program online, an entertainer or a speaker or somebody like that, and they will use the media, social media, to perhaps require a fee to be paid in order to gain access to the website or the Zoom or well, it's usually not Zoom, but the YouTube or whatever it is that they are doing, and those have been generally pretty successful. And one of the nice things about some of those is that they, like this webinar itself, they can be archived and used again and again on an on-demand basis, so you can keep selling that particular thing. So those are just some small ideas of what you can do to keep your organization alive during the COVID crisis, keep your organization exciting, keep everyone involved and vital. And so I think with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to give you the benefit of my thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Stan. That was great. We'll use the rest of our time for questions and answers. We'll take as many as possible up till 1 o'clock. So please submit them via the chat feature in the lower portion of your screen. That was great. You know, I'm on the board, and I'm sure a lot of people online right now watching are on boards of local charities. And I love some of your recommendations there that I haven't really thought about, like using the telephone. I mean, I could easily see that it would be a big deal if I got a call from, say, the Bridgeport Rescue Mission from a board member on that company and to ask money. It would mean a lot if I actually did hear from them, and that's something our board should actually think of doing in the future.
One of the things is that the phone call should not come from the organization, you know, because people don't answer the phone if they don't know the number. So that's definitely, you know, we've learned a lot of techniques about telemarketing these days. So you know, you need a phone number that people recognize, you know, not coming from some odd place. But,
right.
but these are challenges for any kind of selling. I work my hobby business is helping people who are in job search, and I work with a lot of kids that are, you know, first-time job hunters, and I lift this up and I ask them if they know what this is, and they say, they'll tell me different things, and I'll say, do you know what you can do with it? And they'll say, no, what? And I will show them this screen. And I say, you know, if you push in 10 digits, it will ring and you can talk to someone. Because the most effective way to make a connection when you're in job search is not to send in your resume, it's to make a phone call to someone saying, can I talk to you? And it's critical. You have to talk to people in order to really touch them. So yes, it's a really, really good thing. And you know, and people, when they know you, they're willing to talk to you, you know, and you're not asking, and once again, not asking for money. That's not what you're doing. You're telling them, I want to tell you what's going on in our organization this week, or this is what we just achieved, or, you know, it has been a tough time, but we are doing this. It's always, this is what we're doing. Oh, and then you can explain further. And then once again, after you've done that, then you can give the ask. I'm going to, someone asked what my email address is. I'm going to put it in the chat so I think everyone can see it.
Right.
Let's just see if I got it right.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. Okay.
Great. Do you have suggestions on how to keep your volunteers during this pandemic times?
Well, yeah, I think that the best way to keep your volunteers is by making them more a part of the organization. The organizations that I have enjoyed working with the most have been those where I've been asked to do things that the organization does, not just to help raise money. You know, I've been on boards where the criteria for being on the board was either you give money or you get money. Okay, and I think that's great, but that's not how you really build an organization that is full of doers. I think that what you want to do, the best way to engage members and retain members is by saying, these are the tasks that we need to achieve to fulfill our goal. And part of that, if the organization is providing a service, I think that the best way for members, you know, to be engaged is to know the people who are doing the service, actually be down on the ground with them in some way, because once they know what they're doing and they see the work that is being done both by the person in the organization who's providing the work and the beneficiary of that work, they are so much more energized to be proselytizers for that organization. It's so much more important than, hearing about it or from the president of the organization, and can we have your money? When you do that field trip, to the soup kitchen or whatever, that just changes the whole tenor.
Right. So one person was just asking, so are you saying the solicitation should come from people within the organization rather than a paid outside organization?
Well, the answer is yes.
Right.
But there are any number of reasons for that. First of all, who wants to get a call from a call center, okay,
right.
or a professional solicitor? I get it. I mean, I get it. It's a job, and no one wants to ask for money, but that's part of being part of an organization that you believe in, is that you're out there trying to do it. If you're the American Cancer Society, I suppose, that's a whole different situation. But this talk is, directed to what I would imagine are smaller nonprofits, that are providing community services, and it's your heart that sells. It's your heart that raises the money. And if you're going for a big contribution, then you do things like invite people to see what's going on. If you're doing small contributions, you tell them what you've done, what you've observed. That comes from the heart, and it's so much more effective.
Right. Yeah, you also have a fan here, Helen from Homes with Hope.
Don't I know?
They've been the recipient of your bingo on many occasions, and it's great. It's also been a great way for others to hear about our mission. This was my first time on SCORE training. I really enjoyed it a lot, and she's thanking you very much.
Oh, good. Put 4 stars. I need some
Doris
Amazon
is
rating.
indicating this is very powerful, power-packed. Question here from Janice: do you help nonprofits set up a bingo fundraiser?
Sure, I can absolutely do that. Usually what my suggestion is that someone plays virtual bingo to see how it works. Because I think when you see it, you really, it's so much easier to understand what it is, how it works, and how easy it is to do. I mean, it's just so easy to do.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm always happy to. Someone called me this week and said, asked me about it, and she says, "And what do you charge?" And I said, "Oh, whoa, this is something that I just love helping people do. I would, it's just great."
Right. So Stan has previously put in his email address in the chat window. So if you just want to scroll through there, you can get his web address. Yeah. Nancy's asking, what are the best funding avenues for a startup nonprofit with a 501c3 approval pending? Many grants seem to be geared toward established organizations.
Grants are tough. First of all, when you go through some of the databases to find grants, most of the ones that you're looking at say that they don't accept unsolicited requests. So it's like 90% of them. The best, it's always the telephone. It's always the telephone. There are companies in your neighborhood that you see sponsoring different things. Okay, whether they're sponsoring Little League or they're sponsoring who knows what. Those are the people you want to start with. And you want to start with those $500 contributions to do whatever it is you're going to do. And once you do that and you start showing what you're doing, then you have an opportunity to go after larger grants. But I am a real believer. It isn't just finding your friends, who are going to give you $500, but actually going out into the community that you're serving and getting smaller contributions. I was involved in a nonprofit in one of the satellite towns around here, and I found it very unsatisfying that the organization did not actively solicit within its its own town. It went to the wealthier towns, neighboring towns. And I think that the best way to get support is by going to the community where you're rendering the services. Even if those contributions are small, those are the names you want to show on your, list of supporters, are the people in the neighborhood. So I would strongly do that. Churches, synagogues, they can give some money and they can give you access to their members. And that's a great way, once again, to build community support. But I think community support is really, really important when you're starting a 401c.
Right.
501c.
Yep. And Doris was just asking, do you have any ideas for like drive-through nonprofit organization events?
That was part of what we discussed when we did Lobsterfest, and the answer is a big resounding no. It was really, and I'll tell you why, and I hate to be negative, but we didn't even get to the point of whether people would drive through to do whatever it was we were going to do. We couldn't get volunteers to be part of it. In this environment, our organization is comprised principally of people over 50. They just were not going to do anything that was going to put them in contact with the public. So the answer is no. Maybe you can. It's late to do this year, but maybe you can do some kind of sales or something where you're delivering something, and you can wear your mask when you drop something off at supporters' homes or businesses. But we just found it was just impossible to do a drive-through.
Right. Lila from Bridgeport Hospital COVID Emergency Fund also benefited from your bingo game, and she's thanking you. Creative, fun, and she said encourages others to join in. That's a good question. How do the people select the winners of your bingo game select the COVID related charity? Is there a list you provide to them?
No. The fun thing is that our people who play our game are literally from all over the country. We've given money away to Georgia, to Florida, California. I don't know if we've done Wisconsin yet, but we have a player from Wisconsin. But we, at the beginning of bingo, I always remind people that we are doing this to support COVID related charities. And I think with one exception, the players have all designated a COVID, typically food banks, hospitals, EMS. So everyone has just played along. I probably would intervene if someone said they wanted to give it to the SPCA, and I would say that's really not an appropriate, thing for this game. But people have done the right thing from my perspective.
Well, great, Stan, this has been fantastic. So the good news really is that giving has remained strong and that people are rising to the occasion, especially in the small dollar range, I guess. I loved your ideas on engagement, giving the information, using the telephone, SurveyMonkey, blog, newsletters, great ideas. If you're not in the virtual world these days, you're not in the world at all, practically. Knowing the goal, very important. And your 3 example of success stories, both the Lobsterfest as well as the bingo, great ideas. I want to thanks a lot. I want to remind everybody the recording of this webinar is available within a couple of days on the fairfieldcounty.score.org website. Please check our website for further information on upcoming webinars. Again, SCORE offers free individual counseling. So I think the link is probably on the last slide, but if not, you can go to our website and just click request a mentor. We're available for sessions via phone, email, and video these days. Also, please fill out your evaluations that have been sent at the end of the webinar. On behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's live webinar. In closing today, a big thank you to Stan Witkow. Thanks, Stan.